What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video from Pink Tourmaline. And this video is a bit of an exploration of a thought that I've been having, a thought that stems from my dive into Gnosticism, my thought that stems from listening to William Bullman and listening to some of these ideas about the material world, as well as meaning the world that we live in, the physical world, as well as even accounts of the astral plane immediately outside of the physical world, which according to William Bullman and other folks, this is not the end all be all of reality. This is merely a thin layer beyond the material world, but there are many, many, many complex dimensions beyond that astral plane that we often don't get to explore because shortly after we enter that realm, right after death, we choose to come back to the physical plane over and over and over, which some people call a reincarnation loop or reincarnation trap. And again, I'm new to all this stuff, brand new. I'm still learning on a day-to-day basis. So I do not claim to be any expert on the matter. I do not claim that even this is the nature of reality and this is really what's going on, but it has piqued my interest. And I do think there's some interesting substance to it, and hence why I'm exploring it further. And this leads me to this question, because I think this is part and parcel of this entire setup, that if this is indeed some sort of an existence that we are manipulated into re-experiencing over and over and over for the purpose or benefit of whatever beings or entities that are then using this world to have us go through these difficult, arduous lives to extract like negative emotions or negative energy. Some people are calling it loosh. If that's the case, where can we see the evidence of this in terms of, and I'm not even talking about the accounts of out-of-body experiences or anything like that. I'm just talking systematically. Where can we see some sort of clues in the way that this world is set up that is indeed the case? Well, I actually gave ChatGPT a really long, detailed prompt on this exact question, essentially saying, well, does it not seem, if we look to our core fundamental roots of morality, and I really had it focus on, I think, the most basic tenet of morality, which is the golden rule. And some people might argue there are more even basic and fundamental tenets, but I think that one is just sums up so many things that we should do and think about in one beautiful rule. Is like, do unto others as you would want to do unto yourself, whatever the exact phrasing is. And I asked it to look at all different facets and elements of life, especially human life and human civilization, when it comes to biology, needs, desire, drive, the monetary systems, the government systems. And it came back with some really interesting observations. And these are the things that I wanted to share with people. And I'd love to get your feedback. If you are new to the channel or returning to the channel and you're watching some of this content, you know that this is an exploration for me, an active exploration. This channel is me learning and sharing in real time. And a lot of the things that I've stumbled upon in the last couple of weeks are because of you guys, because of the recommendations and the comments that people have been leaving and the directions that people have been pointing me in. So I have I want to say the biggest thank you to everybody who has been tuning in along this journey. And please continue to send more stuff my way. But anyways, I'm going to be sharing these ideas and talking them out in real time and asking questions in real time, as well as in terms of what things make sense, but then what things I might need further clarification on. And if people have answers or want to direct me send me in new directions, please do so in the comments. So without further ado, let's get into the mix of this list of 10 items. So this is one really interesting thing. And I actually heard somebody say something like this in the comments, that this world is parasitic in nature. And I was also thinking about that in a recent video. I'm like, man, the way that life is set up for us to consume other things, usually other beings, other entities, whether it's even plants. I mean, that's still living plant matter. Like the way it's set up, it is kind of crazy that just we can think that we're going out and we're being really kind to other beings or organisms, and we're doing all this great stuff, but then it's like, just to survive, we have to destroy. And so it's like baked in to the survival process. So is this an impossible battle? Is this absolutely impossible task to truly achieve like real morality in this physical plane? Like, I don't know. So it kind of lends to this theory that this world is really backwards, but intentionally so. By design, it's backwards by the nature of the survival mechanism. So it says at the most basic level, living beings remain alive by consuming other life or formerly living matter. Even if you eat plants, look at this, right? All generated. Life sustains itself through taking from life. That already creates tension with the golden rule, because existence in the material world is not based on harmless coexistence, but on extraction and transformation. So that already piques my interest right there, in terms of the world being fundamentally designed in a way which forces us to go in opposition to the golden rule, which I think resonates with almost everybody universally. Again, let me know if you disagree. Scarcity pushes self-interest over reciprocity. When resources are limited, food, land, money, status, safety, people are incentivized to protect their own access first. The golden rule asks us to treat others with equal moral consideration, but scarcity makes us think in terms of me and mine first. Even decent people become more defensive, territorial, and less generous under pressure. And I think this is what we see. This is even how you could see kingdoms and fiefdoms begin, by virtue of people wanting to protect their loved ones and their families at the cost of other folks, which immediately skews this idea of the golden rule, where everybody is one big family and we're treating everybody equally. Like, that immediately goes out the window. And that's almost baked into society as an acceptable part of society. Hey, parents got their kids, they're going to defend their kids above anybody else. And that's sort of the norm. But again, that goes in opposition of this basic principle that we should treat all others fairly. And then as this gets carried away, this allows us to make moral bridges and moral bridges and moral bridges to other areas, where now all of a sudden we're killing people in the name of defending our loved ones and the ones we care about. But that's apparently being justified. And does that mean we are bad inherently as entities or beings? I don't know. Maybe it's just a byproduct of the way that the world is designed, the fact that scarcity is a thing and that we have to compete over limited resources. Is that when we're hitting ourselves over the head and saying, why can't we be better people? Why can't we be better entities? Maybe that's the wrong question to ask, right? Maybe it's, why is the world set up in this way, where we're forced into an environment where we have to betray this rule that feels so foundational and fundamental? Number 3, human biology is wired for favoritism, not universal love. Very interesting. We naturally privilege family, tribes, allies, and people who resemble us. That may have evolutionary value, but morally it creates partiality. The golden rule and division. The golden rule points toward consistency. Treat others as you would want to be treated. Human psychology often says, treat your own group better than everyone else. Again, this is baked into our DNA. This is baked into our instincts. So it's like our programming, or the programming of our physical bodies. I'm not saying of our spiritual bodies or light bodies, but the programming of our physical bodies already seems at odds with what we, I think, on some higher plane, wish we would be like, or wish we would act like. Number 4, fear and self-protection distort moral behavior. We all know this. When people feel threatened, they often become less compassionate and more punitive, and more reptilian, if you will, from the reptilian brain. That's when we get into these fear modes, the cortisol spikes, and you start doing things that out of reaction as opposed to out of conscious thought. Fear narrows moral imagination. Instead of asking, how would I want to be treated? The frightened mind asks, how do I protect myself at any cost? Right? Backed into a corner. We hear this all the time. A lot of cruelty in the world flows not from pure evil, but from threatened egos or nervous systems in survival mode. Not even just threatened egos, but just a threatened life, or even fear or anxiety of a threatened life, wondering, hey, maybe in several weeks or several months, this is going to happen, and that's going to cause me or my loved ones some harm. Well, I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to take life by its reins and push the boundaries of morality in order to secure our safety. Number 5, competition rewards outcomes that morality may not. Of course, we see this all the time. Markets, careers, schools, sports, social hierarchies often reward winning, not fairness. In many systems, people advance by outperforming, outmaneuvering, or replacing others. The golden rule encourages mutual dignity. Competition often pressures people to instrumentalize others, to see them less as equals and more as obstacles, customers, voters, employees, or rivals. Now, the thing about this is more of a societal construct, not necessarily inherently a part of the system of Earth and the universe and life, I would say. So this is a little more interesting. This could be something that we could say, well, yes, this is a part of the fabric of society today, but theoretically we could peel this back and not make life this way, not make things so competitive, so that we don't skew morality as much as it's being skewed. But I think that's a tall order, especially considering when you look at humanity across time, it always seems like we get into these competitive battles with scarcity and whatnot. Now, one thing I have discussed in previous videos is with the birth of AGI, this could be a whole change of the game, right? Things could drastically be different, where enter into this world or era of like almost infinite abundance, and where people aren't really going to have to work, at least not in the same ways that they work now. But I wouldn't be surprised if, just based on what I'm learning and thinking now, that somehow we have a new wave or a new form or a new type of social hierarchy, maybe not based around money or earning potential or these types of things. Maybe it's based around other new things that we hadn't thought of before. Who knows what it may be. Number 6, money systems can detach reward from moral worth. A person can create enormous social value and earn little, while another can exploit attention, fear, speculation, or monopoly power and earn vastly more. That creates a deep moral dissonance. The golden rule suggests that people should be treated according to dignity and fairness, but economic systems often assign value according to leverage, scarcity, and bargaining power instead, and monetary value, just power, period. So I think that, and this, you could argue, is this a fundamental piece of the system of this physical universe? Again, not necessarily. We even see tribal systems that exist, that coexist right now on Earth alongside our mainstream civilization, that where maybe these types of monetary symbols or symbols of wealth or accumulation of goods, they don't mean the same thing in these other cultures, and it's more about having a community where everybody has their role. So that may not be an inherent part of human life, but is definitely a prominent feature of our modern civilization. And that is, I think, 100% at odds with this idea of the golden rule, right? Just the fact that we have these hierarchies based on status. Number 7, political power often runs on manipulation rather than truth. Again, this is a element of our modern society, well, even society stemming back like thousands of years, I would say, but it doesn't have to be this way. So this, really what I'm thinking about are more things that are set up by design that are inescapable. This could be escapable, I think, theoretically. We don't necessarily have to have these political structures that we do, but I've said this many times, right? In politics, persuasion frequently works better than sincerity, and fear often mobilizes more effectively than empathy. Leaders may gain power by dividing people, exaggerating threats, flattering tribes, redirecting blame. That is almost the inverse of the golden rule, right? And that's a funny thing as well. If you see how backwards society feels, where the people at the top, the politicians, are the most morally corrupt, and they have the greatest ease, it seems, of bending the truth or completely smashing the truth altogether, just in the short term to get what they want, and then they don't seem to ever have to make up for those words or make up for those lies. And it just and it seems like the people that lie more easily or more deceptive more easily seem to skyrocket to the top. And I think that's an interesting facet of our modern society. But just going back to this stuff being baked into human DNA or the way that the world is structured, maybe that doesn't mean, these are the questions I'm asking now. Maybe that doesn't mean that the people at the top are necessarily inherently bad or terrible or worse than us or these types of things. Maybe they're a victim of this entire system and the entire way that the universe and the world and the laws of physics are set up. To some extent, I don't know. And maybe they have less empathy, so it's easier for them to go down this rabbit hole. But ultimately, the blame maybe lies in the fact of this whole simulation, if you will, that we're in, by design, leads us down these negative paths, or leads people down these negative paths, just some more so than others. I don't know. Number 8, bureaucratic and institutional systems depersonalize suffering. Large systems, banks, insurers, employers, governments, legal systems often treat people as cases, account, risk categories, productivity units. Nobody inside the system may feel individually malicious, yet the result can be cold and inhuman. The golden rule is personal and relational. Institutions often become impersonal and procedural. This really resonates when you think about companies like Coca-Cola or Pepsi that are producing pure garbage, or pharmaceutical companies, et cetera. They're just creating products and putting it out there that are in real time destroying lives and harming people. I'm not saying that the people in these organizations are all malicious and malevolent and want to inflict harm upon people. But again, I think this makes a good point. It depersonalizes it. They don't feel a relationship to their customer base who is suffering all these tragedies. Now, once again, we come back to the question of, is this inescapable? I don't know. I think that some of these things can be reformed, and maybe are starting to be reformed in real time. And some of these companies that are carrying on these behaviors, maybe they're starting to wake up finally. So I don't know if this is an example of something that is just inescapable, unavoidable. I think this is emblematic of the fact that our society has really gone to the darkest corner of the dark side, Who knows? Maybe it get darker. I don't know, but it's gone to a really dark corner of the dark side. But not that it's inescapable. I'm sure we can come to a point in the near future where we're not creating just pure garbage products that have no nutritional upside and just are there to harm and essentially destroy. Number 9, modern incentives monetize attention, desire, and insecurity. Much of modern life is built around stimulating craving, buying more, compare more, want more, fear of missing out more. Advertising, social media, status culture, and consumer systems often intensify envy, vanity, outrage. But these are exactly the states that make the golden rule behavior harder. Again, it's a good point, and it is true of our system and society right now. But I don't believe it's inescapable, unavoidable. I do think there are societies on the planet right now that don't fall into these traps, that aren't beholden to these ideas, these traps that feed off of our desires and insecurities. Last but not least, strength and dominance often protect themselves across nature and civilization. Power tends to preserve itself. So this is an inherent part, I'd say, of the system. Stronger individuals, groups, corporations, or states can shape rules in their favor. That means the world often does not operate by reciprocity, but by asymmetry. One set, and this has been the story as long as time. And even you can even see this play out if you go to zoos and you see two animals occupying one cage, right? The more dominant, the more physically aggressive one is going to basically bully the other one. I've seen this with like pigs in the pen, just at the smallest levels of interaction, not even in humans. And I think this part is fundamentally built in, and not even, I don't even think it's a line between good and bad. Part of it is driven by survival instincts. You get in these positions, even for these animals, I don't think they're necessarily malevolent or malicious, but part of that may be due to some sort of genetic encoding. One set of rules for the powerful, another for the weak. The golden rule implies moral symmetry. What is wrong when done to me is wrong when done to you, but power structures often resist that symmetry. So there are those 10 points, as I mentioned, some of them better than others, obviously, as we've gone through the discussion. That begs the question of, are we already set up to lose as we're trying to pursue these goals? It's like, what I'm imagining is we have this maybe divine connection to the source. And so from that comes these ideas of morality, of the golden rule, of how we should treat each other. And we're trying to implement them, but it's at odds with how to survive and maintain life on this planet. So we're stuck in this position of having this maybe being ingrained in our soul or in our spirit mind or whatever it may be, but then not really being able to carry it out just by virtue of the design of the world, which comes back to the conclusion, or potentially the conclusion, that, yeah, maybe this is set up purely to make us be at ease, make us be at unrest, and create disharmony so that it does something else. It creates this loosh or something along those lines that other entities feed off of. This is the fundamental question. The last thing I'll say is, as I'm piecing all this together and as I'm thinking about it, I think ultimately all these theories still go back to there being one divine creator, but this particular simulation or world or universe or physical realm was created by some malevolent force, and now we're trapped in it until we can become free. And how to get free is maybe still up for debate. In my mind, I'm still trying to figure that out. But then that also goes back to the question of why would all of this be kind of like allowed to go on? And I don't know the answer. Why can't this, if this is indeed a physical prison or some sort of enclosure that we can't escape on our own, why aren't we being saved? I mean, maybe is that part of the journey? Is that part of the process that we need to liberate ourselves? And that's the ultimate component, that free will ultimately dictates everything. Like and again, the NDEs and the people that are talking about this stuff say that we choose to come back here. We're not forced to come back. We end up volunteering via manipulation to come back. So is that the key? That we must ourselves raise ourselves and then to ultimately choose not to come back. But until we do, we're in this prison basically by choice, and therefore we're not being helped as a result. Like, I don't know. And I'm just spitballing. I don't know. If you guys have answers or more places for me to look or more things for me to explore, please let me know your thoughts in the comments. This is simply food for thought. But thank you guys so much for joining. We'll see you in the next video. Take it easy.